Hey, I'm Good Guy Griffo, and welcome back to Know Your Role. This is episode 2, Off Tank. And in this video, I will discuss your job within team comps and team fights. If you haven't already, I suggest watching the first episode as I explain what this series is and the goals I have for it. Also, if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, why not subscribe to see immediately when the next episode is released. But anyway, like I said, this episode is all about off tanks. Off tanks are a sort of weird type of character as they are both quite tanky while also being a major damage threat. So a good off tank can be a nightmare to deal with. Just think about how many games you've lost purely due to the fact that a 100 charge Xayah or flanking Roadhog just couldn't be killed and they would just roll over you like they were nothing. And well, that's the power of off tanks. But don't get the wrong idea, they are not perfect and they do have weaknesses. So let's start talking about what their role is within a team. Their role is to attempt to control the actions of the enemy team. This often means following your main tank and investing resources into them, but it can also mean peeling for backline characters as they get dived. In short, your job as an off tank is to play reactively and do your best to counter what the enemy team is trying to achieve. There are 4 off tanks in the game at the moment, with them being Diva, Sigma, Hog, and Xayah, and each of them are specialized to fit within specific comps and situations. So let's go through each off tank and discuss what they offer and what they are specialized in. First off is Diva. Diva is the most mobile of the off tanks, and she utilizes this mobility to be the best off tank in a dive comp, as it allows her to follow in her main tank and provide defense matrix to help them survive the fight. Diva also has probably the strongest peel out of all the off tanks. If a backline ally requires peeling, Diva can boop them away with a fly, peel for the ally using defense matrix, or just burst them down with micro missiles. However, her weakness is that she has the least amount of spam and pre-fight damage, just because she is a really close range character, which means you need to be very proactive to get the most out of her. Next is Xayah. Xayah has probably the highest potential DPS out of all the off tanks and is a brawling beast. She can single-handedly carry fights provided that your main tank is making space and you're able to keep a high charge. As Xayah, you work very closely with the main tank to provide an extra 200 health shield to them when they look to aggress or need it to help survive. But you can also use this bubble to save low HP teammates who are getting attacked in the backline. However, by doing this, it means that your main tank needs to play more passively and wait for it to get back off cooldown. As Xayah, you can really start to struggle when the enemy team just refuses to give you charge. And since she's got such short range and has no mobility, against high mobility comps or far range DPS, she can really start to feel insignificant. Third is Sigma. Sigma is probably the best spam off tank, and also features the most range out of all the tanks. Sigma starts to look good when you want to play a slower, more drawn out fights, where the teams look to stay just out of reach of close range threats like Reinhardts and Reapers. But in these scenarios, Sigma can just spam his shots for days, farming ult and winning fights. With Sigma, you have both your shield and your grasp to help mitigate damage from the front. This is really good at helping maintain a frontline assault or hold, but is not as great as other tanks in providing backline peels. Finally, we have Hog. Hog is the weirdest off tank with the fact that he doesn't really have any abilities to help him peel or take ground. This means that he is only reliant on kill pressure and damage. Roadhog needs to hit his hooks whenever opportunities present themselves. You are there to punish bad positioning and to zone enemies away. Overall, Roadhog is the worst tank for the team, but the best for playing the game solo, as he is only reliant on you hitting hooks. So if you play against a lot of shields, or if they're just playing at a super far range, he will struggle to get any value, and he will just become a walking ult battery. So that's a rundown on the general approach that all the off tanks take at doing their job. But what are some tips that you should know to help you no matter what off tank you are playing? Understand the synergy with your main tank. Playing together is one of the most important things you can do as a tank. Both of you are reliant on one another to complete your job. The main tank needs your support to help take and hold ground, and you need them to create space so that you can control the battlefield. Understanding just how both of you need to work together is important, as it will make both of your jobs easier. An example is a Xayah who knows to bubble their Reinhardt when he goes to go aggressive. This is not communicated, but is just understood between the tanks that she will provide the bubble, and as such, synergy. Knowing what will threaten your backline. When playing off tank, you need to understand what threats that you will need to neutralize and peel for. Each DPS character will go about killing squishies in a particular way, and you need to do your best to adjust to counteract them. If playing against a Doom, they will look to jump them from a high ground or a flank, and one-shot them. and you need to be watching these flanks and pressuring him at every opportunity to ensure that your team stays safe. Play reactively. I know I've said this before, but it's such an important concept. If in a fight the enemy team commits to a dive onto one of your supports, your first reaction should be to attempt to peel for them. But since they commit so much, it is unlikely that you'll be able to save them. So in this scenario, you should try and look to even out the fight by going into their backline and trying to take out as many people as you can. And it's by plays like these where you identify where you can and can't win fights that will allow you to carry games. Adapt to the game. You will often find yourself in games that you just feel no matter what you do, you can't find impact. Whether there are just too many shields or the enemy team is just too far away to deal damage to, and in these scenarios you need to change the way you play. If the enemy team is being overly aggressive, maybe sit further back and wait for them to misplay. If they're being too passive, why not take a flank and get a pick? It's by adapting and changing what plays you go for in which you'll be able to find impact in every game you play. But that's all I have for tips. Let's just do a little recap before we go. Your job as an off-tank is to control the battlefield and play reactively to how the enemy team is playing. You look to peel or equalize fights while applying constant damage and kill pressure. You don't engage fights, but you are on the front line, and you'll adapt to the game, changing what you prioritize from game on a game basis. But anyway guys, that's it for episode 2 of Know Your Role. The next episode will likely be on main support, and it will include things that you should come to expect from this series, as well as some clarification on what a main support is compared to a main healer, because they are different classifications, but I'll explain that in the video. But if you enjoyed the video or learned something new, why not leave a like and subscribe. Till next, see you then.
My phone lights up, but it's never you. I can't help but feel so lonely.